Hello, welcome to the Sound of Science, the place where we deconstruct unscientific bogus and silly scams. Let's go get them. Hello, you wonderful critical thinkers. Please hear me out on this one. I know that I'm giving this guy a lot of attention lately, but this Christian apologist calling himself topics of religion, he's so funny that again, you absolutely need to see this, because today he tries to understand IQ tests, and of course, the results are hilarious. As many of you know, this guy makes lengthy rants in about each and every one of his videos, accusing other people of being stupid. Today, he does it again. Yet another endless rant in which he calls other people stupid.
She would show how stupid she is in the comments and how she can't understand a simple video. And she proves it in the comments and makes herself look dumber.
While demonstrating in about all of his videos that he himself is most definitely not a very smart guy.
But their channel is opened in 2010. That's a while. That's a while ago. 10 years ago?
So that kind of creates an issue. If you're as stupid as this guy seems to be, then you're in no position to judge the intellectual qualities of other people, because then you simply wouldn't have the capacity to assess that. Now this guy seems to have noticed that people like myself are calling him out for that, so he's now trying to do some damage control. And as we've seen before, when topics of religion starts doing damage control, he's making the whole situation much worse. And that is when the real comedy starts. So recently he said this.
People who know me in real life tell me you're more intelligent than you think of yourself. I don't think of myself as highly intelligent.
So what he's trying to do here is first backtracking a bit, trying to present himself as a bit more modest. Look, I don't see myself as highly intelligent. Of course, what he should have said here is, therefore I am in no position to assess the intellect of other people, so I apologize for calling other people stupid. But then, of course, his ego gets in the way of being modest and honest. So what he then does is trying to maintain that illusion of being reasonably intelligent by introducing nameless and unverifiable other people who supposedly have said that he is intelligent. I'm guessing that if that is true, and if there are people who said that about him, it would teach us something about the intellectual level of his friends and not so much about himself. Anyway, he should have stopped right there. But again, his ego gets in the way of being honest and modest. So he just had to tell us the results of his intellectual tests. So please tell us how smart you are.
I did score a little bit higher than the average population, but I didn't score like Einstein level or anything. Like 110 was my score. My intelligence level was 110 on 4 different tests, right around 110. 108, 110, 112, in that area. And it was done professionally, it wasn't done online.
Note that he mentions that these are intellectual tests. The tests were measuring his intelligence level. They were done professionally. He did 4 of them, and that his score was about 110, and that is slightly above average. All of that indicates that we're talking about a standard official IQ test, which will become very important later on in the story. But right off the bat, I'm very doubtful if he actually did those tests. Because if you're not even capable of understanding how to subtract 10 from 25...
But their channel is opened in 2010. That's a while. That's a while ago. 10 years ago.
And if you're very bad at understanding the order of magnitude of things...
Stalin was his like 350 million people. I can't remember what it was. How about Hitler? Was it 150 million? 250 million?
Then it's not very plausible that if you were to do 4 IQ tests, the result would be around 110, because the result of an IQ test very strongly relies on understanding numerical reasoning, recognizing number patterns, and making basic calculations. If you're bad at that, like you've just demonstrated, you're not very likely to score over 100 in an IQ test. Now, he should have stopped his attempt to damage control right here, because he might have gotten away with it. The fact that he claims to have a 110 IQ based upon 4 professional tests is of course not a very plausible outcome, but also not a very outrageous one. So if he actually had a 110 IQ, he probably would have stopped here, but of course his ego got in the way again. So when he uploaded his next video, he tried to double down on his IQ test results. And then of course he blew his cover, giving us reason to believe that he made up the entire story about the IQ tests. Have a look at this.
On a video, the video wasn't about this, but on a video I mentioned taking 4 professional intellectual tests. My intelligence level was 110. The average American person that takes the test gets between 70 and 90. That's average. I was 110. That's above average.
Sweet auntie of Bilbo Baggins. That was it. He blew his cover. He couldn't help himself. Probably his ego told him, well, 110 is not really very impressive, but you can't change the numbers now because then nobody will believe you. You know what you can do? You just bring down the average so that your 110 score looks more impressive. So then we get this. Let's watch this again.
4 professional intellectual tests. My intelligence level was 110. The average American person that takes the test gets between 70 and 90. That's average. I said I was scored above average. 70 to 90 is average, and I scored 110.
You unimaginable mustard yogurt for brains. Again, you demonstrate that you understand nothing about numbers. The average IQ score is always 100. That is the whole point of an IQ test. The average is set at 100 by design as an international standard, so that individuals from all over the world can easily see how their score deviates from the average, which is always 100. You caramel coconut cookies for brains. Of course, the average American does not have an IQ score of 70 to 90. Someone with an IQ of 70 even has a mild intellectual disability. People with an IQ of 70 have to attend special education programs and often live semi-independent with some assistance. Yet again, topics of religion, you're trying to talk about something that you have no clue about whatsoever. And this time your own ego is blowing your cover. And then of course in the same video it gets worse, because while you're not yet being aware of the silly mistake you made, you continue with your usual rants in which you call other people stupid.
She's got a serious problem with comprehension, and she's not intelligent. But that's the only one of her comments that was unintellectual. She had every comment she gave me was signs that she's stupid on many levels and quite dumb.
So, what do you think? Here we have a guy who has shown repeatedly that he doesn't understand numbers and basic calculations. He then claims to have done 4 professional IQ tests with a 110 result. Of course, he doesn't show any evidence to back it up. We just have his claim. And again, an IQ of 110 absolutely requires you to have an understanding of numbers and basic calculations, which he demonstrably doesn't have. So that already raises the question if this 110 score is really true. And then, as the icing on the cake, he says that the average American IQ is 70 to 90, which is total nonsense and totally made up. The average IQ in the US is 100. By design. That is how the whole system works. And if you take an IQ test in a professional setting, this is explained to you. So if he doesn't even understand that, it gives me good reason to believe that he never did any of those IQ tests. What do you think? Anyway, topics of religion. Oh dear, it really would make you look much better if you stopped talking about stuff that you simply don't understand. Of course, the question is if you still would be making videos then. And that would rob many of us from some unintended comedy. And that is the funniest kind of comedy. People like yourself, who are most funny when they try to be serious. Thank you for watching.